News Talk 1150 WGBR. Welcome to Newsmakers. I'm Carol Bowden, and I'd like you to help me welcome candidate for sheriff, Mr. Glenn Barnes. Good morning, Glenn.
Good morning, Carol.
How are you?
I'm perfect.
I'm going to get you to move up a little closer to that microphone so everybody can hear you really well.
Alrighty.
And so glad to have you in this morning. And you are number 3 in our interviews for local candidates for the midterm election. So we're going to just jump right in, and I'm going to ask you to take a couple of minutes and tell everyone a little bit about yourself.
Well, thank you, Carol. My name is Glenn E. Barnes. I am candidate for Wayne County Sheriff. I'm a Johnston County boy, born and raised over there, but I came to Wayne County in 1977. But while I was growing up, we lived on a series of tenant farms, and I was the youngest of 9 children. I was the baby, and I was not spoiled, even though they said I was. But I came to Goldsboro in 1977, like I said, when I was hired at Goldsboro Police Department. I'm married to the former Barbara Lassiter of Rosewood. We do live in Rosewood. We've got 4 children and 8 grandchildren. And we're members of Rosewood First Baptist Church. I sing in the choir there, or make a joyful noise anyway. And I'm a member of Oakland Volunteer Fire Department, where I'm serving as president and a safety officer there. I graduated from Wayne Community College with a associate's degree in law enforcement technology, Mount Olive College with a bachelor's degree in criminal justice for professionals. I retired from Goldsboro Police Department as a captain, and I've got, 2,500 hours of training in all areas of law enforcement. So here I am.
And do you like those 8 grandchildren better than the 4 children?
I'm not going to comment on that.
Okay. And as I recall, I think the last time you were on here, you have a dog or 2, or just one? Is it just one?
One dog, yes.
Okay, because that's the spoiled one in the family, from
yes,
what I
definitely.
understand. So, okay, well, we're going to just start with our questions then, and these are the same questions that we've been using all week. Some are varied a little bit for the positions, but they're pretty much the same. So please tell our listeners, why are you running for sheriff?
Well, Carol, I've always been interested in law enforcement, even as a young boy. And so just as soon as I was old enough, when I turned 20 years old, I was hired at Kenley Police Department. That's back in 1976. And then I came over a year later to Goldsboro. So I've got 30 full-time years of law enforcement experience and then 8 years part-time experience. In 1979, I got involved in the fire service, and I've done that since. I've spent quite a bit of time working with causes like Special Olympics and the American Red Cross. So you can pretty much say that my whole life has been public service. And, I've still got a passion for it. And I know that the position as sheriff of Wayne County will be the ultimate place to continue that public service, to serve the public, if you will. And, I've got a ton of hands-on experience to offer to the county, and I really think that the county deserves an experienced sheriff.
How do you differ politically from your opponent, and why do you believe that's a positive for Wayne County voters?
I really don't think there's a political difference. This is not a political position. Neither one of us have made it a political issue. And, I just think of the election as a hiring process where the voters are the hiring board, and they're just out seeking the most qualified candidate. And, I think it's best to leave the politics out of it and make it a law enforcement position. And I've never known the sheriff's political affiliation to have any effect on the job that he can do as a sheriff. I think it's all dependent on that experience and that ability and the dedication to the job.
All right. And in our next question, this is going to be a 3-part answer for you. In your opinion, what do you believe are the 3 most important issues that are facing Wayne County?
Well, it's no secret that I've got a passion for the young people. That's one of my foremost goals, is to be involved with the young people, to give them some kind of positive influence. The traditional family has pretty much deteriorated to the point that everybody's got to get involved in raising the children in their communities. And I know there are several people in different parts of the city and the county that are trying to work with the young people in their neighborhoods to make their life better. And I feel like in my position as sheriff, that I could do some work in bringing all these factions together and make it one organized effort to instill the proper values in these young people, because I mean they're our future, and I think it's an issue now that will pay long-term dividends. We may not see something overnight, but I think in the long term, if we can really work closely with these young people and work hard at it, that we can make a difference down the road. So that would be my one of my issues there, and I think it's important to get the deputies into the schools to protect those children. So, another issue we have is of course, getting the deputies into the school, and I'll be willing to do whatever I need to make that happen, to get the resources that we need. But, as a bonus, once we get those deputies into the school, then we could utilize them in the classroom and try to expand on the things that the Sheriff's Department is doing now with young people. I mean, they got the COPE program, but, I mean, it's in the 5th grade. If we can get to the children earlier with these deputies in school. I'm looking into, I think I mentioned it last time I was here, the GREAT program, gang resistance education and awareness training, and that's something that the Goldsboro Police Department has started, and that allows you to start with the young people sooner. You stay with them longer, but it also incorporates after-school activities and even something during the summer that you can keep them engaged the whole time.
Right.
And I guess that kind of rolled back into the first issue. I mean, they're related, of course. And then I think it's important that we keep an open line of communication with everybody that the Sheriff's Department works with. The other law enforcement agencies. We can exchange information with them, and of course that will make all of us more effective because we'll be working together. And an open line of communication with the communities. I've also said that if we work closely with the community, get out where the people are, find out what the individual issues are, we can address them individually and make sure that we're giving them what they need. So you've got to have that open line of communication with them, and even an open line of communication with the media, because the media can help us so much, but we need to get information to the citizens about what's going on in their neighborhood so they'll be aware of it, and then we can call on the media if we need some help getting out information, or just trying to put word out about something.
In terms of just the sheriff's office itself, what do you feel is the biggest issue that is facing the sheriff's office?
Well, I guess building off that communication thing, we've had an ongoing problem with the current radio system in the county for a few years now, and I think it's important that we work to get that fixed. It's a safety issue. Not only for the law enforcement officers, but for the other first responders in the county. So I think we really need to work with that. I found out not long ago that with the current radio system we have, we can't even communicate with the State Highway Patrol in the county. A trooper was telling me that he was sitting in the office, the patrol station, doing paperwork, heard sirens and looked out, and the Sheriff's Department was chasing a car by patrol headquarters. And he had no way of knowing that until he called Raleigh, his dispatcher, and they had to call Goldsboro to find out what was going on. So I think you've got to have some communication. It goes back to, exchanging information with other agencies. You've got to be able to do that. But, getting back to the public, once we build up the trust with them, then we can start exchanging information that, helps us to resolve those neighborhood issues I was talking about. And, I like to have something in place to allow the public to maybe call in or send in information or questions that they have to give us some help on solving crimes and, how to improve department operations. But, I think citizens are probably the most important part of the Sheriff's Department. They're our boss. We work for the citizens. And so I think it's important that, we ask them for feedback so it gives us something to gauge our progress with.
We've got probably about a minute here before we have to take our first break, so I want to go back and ask you a question about the radio system. Because I've heard many comments about that, and the Highway Patrol has a proven Viper system, and there are some that feel that Wayne County commissioners have perhaps chosen a system that's not proven.
Well, that's certainly something that's above my pay grade, and something, I don't, but I feel like I can be an advocate for a working radio system. I'm limited on what I can do, but I think once I get into the office as sheriff, I would have some influence on some of the decisions that are being made, but that will be one of my primary goals.
All right. Well, we're going to save our next questions until we come back from a break. If you've just joined us, we're speaking with Glenn Barnes. He's candidate for the office of Sheriff of Wayne County, and he is our third local candidate that we're interviewing in our series of interviews prior to the November 4th, in a series of interviews with local Wayne County candidates for the upcoming midterm election. Of course, early voting started yesterday, and you've got one-stop voting for 10 days. Is that right, Glenn?
Mm-hmm. Nine days now.
Left, right. And then we'll have, of course, the general election day on November 4th. So we're going to jump right back into some of the questions. And then, of course, you're going to have a chance to speak to our listeners once again. So if they missed it on the front end, we're going to talk to them before we head out of here. As long as, we have enough time.
Right, I understand.
We're going to do our best to do that anyway. So the next question that we have, and this gets into more detail of the office itself, but how do you feel you differ from your opponent as it pertains to the legal system?
Well, you hear me say experience a lot, and, of course, that's the platform I'm running on, and I certainly have a lot more experience in day-to-day operations, in patrol, in actual hands-on, and that includes, time in the courtroom, testifying on cases, and so I think that would probably be the biggest difference. I've just had more experience in the legal system, by being in law enforcement full-time all those years, and beyond that, I'm really not sure if there's anything else.
Okay. What is your strategy for combating crime in Wayne County?
Getting the community involved. When you're limited on the number of officers you've got on the road, you can't be everywhere at all times. You can't gather all the clues that you need to without witnesses. So I think building a trust, building that relationship, being transparent, and just, letting the community know that you'll utilize whatever they give you, and then in return, you'll be there to help them when they need you. I think it's the most important thing that you can do. Of course, we want to get as many people on the road as we can, and to improve there. But that's not always possible. And even if we had 100 deputies out there, we'd still have to have community involvement in order to solve crimes. And so I really think that the whole key is just building a relationship, being open, being transparent, and letting them know that, hey, we're doing what you need us to do. You help us.
All right, and this next question, perhaps a little bit tougher because you have not been in the office there, but certainly you'll at least have an opinion. Does the sheriff's office have all the resources it needs? And if not, what would you say is the most important need at this time?
Well, like you said, I really can't comment on, what is needed until I get to a position that I can kind of evaluate everything and see what's there. But, I'm sure we can always use more bodies. I mean, you heard me talking about getting deputies into schools, so, being able to get more people to do that and, getting more deputies on the road like we talked about. So certainly manpower would be at the top of the list, or something I'm pretty sure about. The rest of it, like I said, until I get in there and do some evaluating, I really can't make a guess on it.
All right, and then our next question, it's going to be two parts. So many listeners question two things about our court system. The first is the amount of bonds. A lot of people wonder why there's a disparity. What are your thoughts on the bonds that are issued in Wayne County? And as you said, you've got a lot of experience, so certainly you've dealt with that.
Right.
So what is your take on that, and what do you say to the people that question why there's a difference?
Well, I know the magistrate has limits on the bonds that he sets. They're pretty much preset, but he is allowed some discretion. And so when a prisoner is brought in, they're going to look at things like, the prisoner or the person's criminal history. Is he a flight risk? He'll get the officer's input as to whether or not the person was cooperative, or if he fought him, resisted. And the jail population always comes into play. That's certainly an issue, is trying to find room to put everybody. You know, while I want to keep everybody out, there's still going to be some people to be locked up. But, you know, I think when a prisoner comes in and, you know, it's something that is looked at, is the population currently in the jail, and do we have room for this person? Or, you know, are there enough factors in place to allow us to send this person home under bond? And, you know, if it's a borderline, of course, the bond's going to be higher. I mean, because the purpose of the bond is to keep, you know, get people back to jail, back to court. So yeah, I think all those factors come into play.
And in your experience as a law enforcement officer, you've certainly had to deal with what people term the revolving door. And that's where law enforcement and the court system meet. How do we keep the same offenders from repeating crimes? How would you do that as sheriff?
Well, I'm back on preventing the people from getting in the system. You know, it's easier to keep them out than it is to get them out once they get in. But once they get in, of course, you know, there are a lot of repeat offenders. And it's frustrating as a police officer or as a law enforcement officer to have to deal with that. And, you know, you just go out and do the best that you can in identifying and arresting the criminals. You get them to the magistrate's office, you know, and then once they're into the system, into the court system, then you just let the courts handle what they do and just don't dwell on it, because, you know, it'll kind of discourage you if you dwell on it too much. But, you know, you just continue to do your job. When the courts let them back out, you arrest them and take them back in. I really don't know if there is a solution. I mean, this is something that we've been trying to do for centuries, is to rehabilitate, and it works for some, for others it doesn't. And so that's why it's so important to keep them out before they get in.
All right, and our timing is great because we've got just a couple of minutes left, so I'm going to let you use that time to share with our listeners anything that you'd like to tell them.
Well, again, my name is Glenn Barnes. I am candidate for Wayne County Sheriff. I'll be number 2 on the ballot when you're going down and gets to the sheriff's position. I want to make sure that you go to the polls and vote. Please get out. Take somebody with you. It's important that you do your homework first, learn as much about the candidates as you can. To learn about me, you can go to my webpage at www.barnesforsheriff.com. I've got some contact information there. As a matter of fact, I've had several people contact me through that webpage to ask questions, and that's what I want. That's what it's there for. So make sure you learn everything you can about me and the other candidate, and just keep in mind that a leader really needs the hands-on experience to supervise the day-to-day operations or the activities of the people that work for him. And I want to tell you that I pledge, when I'm elected, to be a full-time sheriff. And my door will be open, but when you go to that door, I may not be in there, because I might be on your front porch, because I'm not going to sit in the office and wait for you to come to me. I'm going to go to you and see what I need to do to help you.
What would you say has been the most difficult thing about campaigning for the Sheriff of Wayne County?
The time involved and the lack of rest thereof. But it's been nice. I mean, we've traveled, my wife and I, you know, we've been around, we've met several good people, made some new friends, we've ate a lot of good food, but it's just a current or constant on-the-go type thing. People commented that I'm not gaining any weight from eating all that food. I said that's because I don't get a chance to sit down. I'm burning it off. So, but just a constant going, I think, is the biggest thing about it.
Well, you made a point that everybody needs to learn about the candidates and get out and vote, and you want to remind our listeners where the voting sites are for the early voting.
Well, let's see if I can remember them. I know we've got Belfast Fire Department, Little River Shopping Center, the Civic Center in Mount Olive, New Hope Friends Church, and the Veterans Administration Building on East Ash Street.
There you go. That was all 5. You did a good job. Glenn Barnes, thank you very much. That is going to conclude our interview and our time on Newsmakers, and we appreciate you coming in and getting everybody the chance to get to know you a little better.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I think it's a great thing that you're doing.